with, of course, R.S. Bernaldo and Associates, no, for this training, no, entitled Understanding the Requirements of BIR in the Issuances of Official Receipts. Okay, let me first introduce our speakers for this afternoon. We have Attorney Rosario S. Bernaldo, CPA Chairman and CEO of R.S. Bernaldo and Associates. She's a certified public accountant and lawyer. Ms. Bernaldo has significant professional experience in tax and management consulting, corporate and legal services, business and financial management, investment banking, insolvency and receivership, auditing and training, and research. Ms. Bernaldo is considered as one of the most sought after resource speakers in professional organizations such as the Philippine Institute of CPAs and Financial Executives Institute of the Philippines. She was previously connected with Big Five CPA firms and investment houses. She was a top graduate of the University of the East Manila and the University of the Philippines, Manila. Sherry was also top notch in the 1972 CPA board and 1979 bar examination. So she's one of our speakers for this afternoon, Attorney Rosario S. Bernaldo. Another speaker is Mr. Angelo D. Bernaldo, CPA, President and Finance Director, Center for Training and Development, Inc., Finance Director, R.S. Bernaldo and Associates. Mr. Bernaldo is a certified public accountant with experience in financial management, controllership, credit, and collection. He is also experienced in real estate and property development, being the president of a real estate company. He was formerly connected with a large multinational company and Big Five CPA firm. A graduate of the University of the East Manila and also took MBA units at the De La Salle University. He started his career with Joaquin Conanan and Company, CPAs, now called PricewaterhouseCoopers, and later joined multinational companies. He retired as finance director of Avon, where he stayed for more than 20 years. No? So again, this training is in support of the BIR requirements, which we will be strictly implementing starting January of 2021. So friends, let's all welcome Attorney Sherry Bernal.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ben, for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon. UHS, nice to be with you this afternoon. So the purpose of this, well, it's really a briefing. As mentioned, R.S. Bernaldo and Associates is the partner of UHS in regard to the requirement for issuance of official receipts. So my topic this afternoon are the requirements for the issuance of official receipts. So we will make this very light because I know some portions of this topic would be very technical. So as much as possible, I'll try my best to be able to reach out to you more or less in the usual layman's terms. Okay, so let's begin. Let's begin. Here.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So to start our program, of BIR in the issuance of official receipts. So our house rules first, we want to discuss. We would like to request all participants to turn off their webcams and microphones during the course of our presentation. And the participants should provide their questions via chat room, and then we will entertain them afterwards after the full presentation. So we would first like to introduce ourselves. R.S. Bernaldo and Associates is established on January 14, 1994. It is a medium-sized accounting firm in the Philippines offering a comprehensive range of assurance, non-assurance, advisory, taxation, and technical and training. So currently we have more or less 130 professional staff. So what is our objective with UHS? So in partnership with UHS Essential Health Philippines, we would like to ensure that associates issue official receipts for the weekly commissions that they receive. So next is for the agenda of this webinar. Part 1 will be the introduction of the service and the speakers. Part 2, the official receipt requirements based on the National Internal Revenue Code. Part 3, business registration and application for authority to print receipts and invoices. Then part 4, proper accomplishment of official receipts. And lastly, answering of frequently asked questions from associates and the Q&A portion. For the introduction, I think Ms. Lisbeth already introduced our speakers earlier, Attorney Rosario S. Bernaldo and Mr. Angelo D. Bernaldo, CPA. So for the first section, let's have Ms. Attorney Rosario Bernaldo for the section.
Okay. All right, so let's tackle first the official receipt requirements based on the provision in the National Internal Revenue Code. So, wait. Ikaw ba mag... Okay. All right, so based on the receipts of commissions from UHS, we were told that there is a regular weekly payoff or payment of the commissions. Tama po ba na weekly and it's done every Friday of the week? So all those who have received commissions, those are income on your part. And on the part of UHS, the commissions that they pay you are considered as expenses of the company. So we would like to document the expenses so that UHS can support their claim for the expense. So this is based on the provisions of the National Internal Revenue Code, or let's call it our tax code. That is the prevailing law in the Philippines. So if you have doubts, you can visit or take a look at sections 237 and 238 of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997. Yun po yung basihan kung bakit kailangan mag-issue ng official receipt. Next. So, why do we have to comply with the registration requirements? There are many reasons for compliance, but let me just emphasize that if it is the law that requires it, we have no choice but to comply. Otherwise, we could be subject to fines and penalties, and even criminal liabilities if the amount reaches a certain benchmark. Also, if you are compliant, you can have easily access to financial services, your dealings with maybe banks or lenders and all that, because you can show that you are keen in your keeping of your records. You can also have better reputation among customers and investors, and there could be more opportunities for growth. You will be more confident also in promoting your business because you know that you are not violating anything. So under Section 237 of the National Internal Revenue Code, which deals with the issuance of receipts or sales or commercial invoices. Let me just distinguish receipts, no, or official receipts, ORs, as we often call it for short, uh, versus sales or commercial invoices. If what you are selling or what you are earning are from services, sale of services, you are required to issue an OR. Now, if you're selling goods or other commodities, the seller, you as a seller, would have to issue sales invoice or commercial invoices. And even if you issue an invoice, sometimes your customer, like for example, you go to SM and you bought certain merchandise for use in your office. We always advise that aside from the cash register tape, you also request for the issuance of an official receipt or the sales invoice because these are more acceptable to the BIR. But let us not confuse ORs with sales invoice. So in your case, since you are receiving commission, quote unquote, what you are supposed to issue are ORs. So now, how do you get an OR? Where will you get the OR that you have to issue? So there are minimum requirements for you to have a printed OR. So let's go to this who still section 237 who are required to issue ORs. So let's forget the sales invoice in the meantime, no? Because we are talking of the commissions that you receive. So those who sales or transfers of merchandise, this is the provision of the law itself, no? With value of 25 pesos or more. The reason why this is 25 pesos is came from the old provision of the law, which is imagine if you bought, let's say, some snacks or a can of sardines from your sari-sari store. Do you expect that they should issue a sales invoice? In all probability, they don't have it if it's just the neighborhood store. But this is the law. So technically, theoretically, they are required to issue. And you can demand the issuance if you as a customer or as the buyer. So who else? Those whose receipts, regardless of amount, where the transfer is made by a person liable to value-added tax to another person who is liable also to value-added tax. Now, I guess you are familiar with VAT or value-added tax, but just to for the sake of clarity, the VAT, the one who is liable to pay VAT is the seller, whether he is a seller of goods or he's a seller of services. In your case, you are the seller of services because your commission is paid by UHS to compensate you for the services that you rendered. So since UHS is a person, is an entity that is liable to VAT, then the payment to you by UHS will be an input, will carry an input VAT. But that's their side, no? You don't have to bother about that. Now, as to whether you, who is the other person liable to value-added tax, it all depends whether you are liable or not. And as we will see later in the succeeding slides, I guess most of you are not VAT covered because the threshold of VAT under the train law is now 3 million pesos total gross receipts for the year. So I guess some of you will fall in that category who are earning 3 million and above. We will discuss that separately, but for most of you, probably you wouldn't reach that threshold of 3 million for 2020. Hopefully for the succeeding years, you will be able to achieve that. And who else? Those whose receipts are issued to cover payments made as rentals, commissions, compensations, or fees. So you fall under this category because this is the OR is issued to cover the payments of commissions to you, but with the additional requirement of indicating in the receipt here the name, the business style, the address of the purchaser. Who is the purchaser? It is UHS, right? In this particular case, you are the seller of services. So I'll keep on repeating this even though I'm becoming redundant, just so to emphasize the point that between you and UHS, you are the seller of services. Okay, and it is UHS who is buying the services, so it's the one paying. All right, next. So, as we said, there are minimum requirements to be in the printed ORs. You can see from the slide, and I hope that's legible or visible to you. On the left side, well, is the sample of an OR, of a printed OR. And on the right side says, at least in duplicate. But I would suggest that if you have to print anyway an additional extra page, make it in triplicate. You know why? Because the original, of course, which is the white copy, will be the one submitted to UHS. So that's the one that has to be detached from the booklet, right? Then the pink copy, if you have an accountant or an outsourced accountant who keeps your books of accounts, that can be filed in a separate folder. And the last copy could be retained, should be retained in the booklet so that it's preserved. So if you only have duplicate, then the second copy should still be retained in the booklet. The original, which is the white copy, is given, of course, to UHS, and that is our services to UHS to compile all of these original ORs that evidence the payments made by UHS to each one of you. It says here that the ORs or whatever evidences you have must be kept in your place of business. That is the booklet with the original already detached for a period of 3 years. That's what is stated in section 237. However, there's this regulation of the BIR that came out in 2014 that says we have to, as taxpayers, because all of us are taxpayers, right? We have to preserve our books of accounts, including subsidiary books, while it talks of books. But it says other accounting records, and ORs are part of accounting records because they support the entries in the books. So I would advise you that these accounting records of yours, you keep them together with the books of accounts for a period of 10 years. Because the reason for this is the BIR can still assess you say for example, for the year 2020, 10 years from now, if they allege fraud, because fraud, there is a longer prescriptive period. So ordinarily, within 3 years after you filed your income tax return, the BIR can assess you in the next 3 years from date of filing of your income tax return. Yun ang normal. Pero sometimes the BIR, kahit na mahabang time na nagdaan, can still allege fraud. Why? Why fraud? Because they will say you did not issue OR, which is a violation of Section 237. Or you did not have books of accounts. They can allege that. And then you have an intention to evade taxes. So it's better that you have your records kept for the last 10 years, or the next 10 years rather, because this is our reckoning point is 2020. So let's look at the printed OR here as a sample very closely. You can see that the name of the one issuing OR and the number, there is a serial number, and it also shows from whom it is received. So, and then the TIN number of UHS. I think this was already sent to you, or you're aware that this is the address of UHS, this is the TIN of UHS. All you have to fill up is the amount that you receive for that particular week. If you receive an amount, I don't know, maybe it's directly credited to your bank account from UHS, or it's paid to you in check or whatever mode of payment, then that is the amount that you will put there. Then on the left-hand side of the OR is a computation of how that amount received is arrived at. So we will see that the total sales, if it is VAT inclusive, meaning the VAT is already included in that amount, and you have to remove the VAT. Medyo complicated po ito. I will make it slow. Ibig sabihin, doon sa 128,000 na yan, something, kasama na yung 12% VAT. Para maalis yung, to remove the VAT, you've got to divide the total sales by 1.12. Bakit po 1.12? Kasi ang rate ng value-added tax ay 12%. And then, dahil yung amount na unang nakasulat diyan, no, 128, kasama na yung 12%. In effect, 112% siya. But it's not just a question of i-multiply mo yan by 12%. You have to divide it by 1.12. So, ang answer doon, makukuha natin yung amount of VAT, and then ima-minus natin doon sa first figure, and the answer is your real sales without the VAT. Bakit kaya ialis si VAT? Kasi hindi naman nyo kasama sa sales ninyo. That will be remitted to the government, to the BIR. So, yung answer na 114,582.78, kung walang mga senior citizens discounts and all that, iyan yung due, kaso may withholding tax pa kayo. Bakit naman kailangan may withholding tax? Meron din pong regulation that requires UHS to withhold the tax from you. And wala siyang magagawa kung hindi sumunod doon, kasi kung hindi, siya naman ang mapapahamak. The BIR will not allow UHS to claim as an expense the amount that is paid to you as commission. So, what is the nature of a withholding tax? In essence, it is an advance payment of income tax, your income tax. That's why all the withholding taxes that are accumulated every quarter, if you file quarterly income tax returns, and these are evidenced by Form 2307, USANA or UHS will have to give you a summary of this withholding tax so that at the end of the year, you will be able to deduct the total withholding tax from the amount of income tax due. No? So, alam naman ninyo that come April 15, the deadline for filing of income tax return, we have to compute total income that you receive, and then kung may expenses kayo, we can talk about that later, although not related anymore to the issuance of the OR. Mama-minus yung lahat na expenses, tapos merong tax due, but you will, because you paid in advance the withholding tax that is accumulated, ima-minus nyo yung withholding tax. So, konti na lang babayaran if ever. Maybe wala na nga. Or it could even end up in a tax refund situation. So anyway, masyado na akong matagal dito sa form na to. Let's move on. Kasi I only have 1 hour and the other speaker will have another hour, I think. So, what are the items to be disclosed in the OR? The date of the transaction. So in your case, when you receive the payment, your commission, say tomorrow, if you receive something, because it's Friday, then we will put the date, tomorrow, December 18. Payers, details, name, address, and TIN, you already have that. Total value of the transaction, and then the nature of the service rendered. So you put their commission. And then the form of payment. So that complies with the required items to be placed or to be written on the OR. So I am sure that many of you have already done this. And require lang ng UHS is you do it on a regular basis so that hindi siya naiipon. No? And we will monitor whether all the amounts being paid by UHS to various associates are really issued ORs from you. So that is our job. So here, there is an explanation of the still continuation of minimum requirements. So the total sales equals your total commission inclusive of VAT or VAT that I explained earlier. Then the amount due is the net amount of commission received after deducting the withholding tax. Kasi yung withholding tax ay mapupunta rin sa BIR. This time, it is UHS who will remit the withholding tax. Kaya net na lang yung marireceive ninyo na amount. So next, please. Now, how to determine if you are subject to withholding tax and VAT? So first step is check your business registration certificate or your what we call COR or certificate of registration or BIR form 2303. This is what you are issued by the BIR when you register your business. So meron kayo dapat nitong sa left side na certificate of registration. This is issued by the BIR. And this evidences the fact that you're registered. Ito rin yung kakailanganin for you to be able to get an authority to print. So this is a very important form. No? And once you're issued this, kung meron kayong office, dapat naka-display. No? So take care of this na hindi mawala or ma-misplace kasi mahirap magpa-issue ulit. So, we're just showing you the sample. So, nakalagay dito, of course, yung name, yung address, etc. Anong registered activity? Dito tatanungin, anong type of taxes will you be paying or will you be liable? So it says income tax. So definitely, income tax will always be there. Value added tax, but here it is the taxpayer who will input this, no? So if you based on your evaluation of your prospective sales or commissions to be received for the coming year, you believe that you will not be subject to VAT because you won't meet the threshold, dapat sa umpisa pa lang wala yung VAT rito. Pero once na nilagay ninyo yan dyan, regardless of your amount of sales or commission, subject na kayo sa VAT. Ano pa nakasulat? Withholding tax. No? So you're subject to expanded withholding tax. This is the guide of the BIR in determining what type of taxes you are supposed to be paying. So dahil yan nakakompute kayo sa BIR, pag nagpa-monitoring kayo, nagpa-check, let's say you will stop your business already or you're transferring to another location or registered address, lalabas dyan kung nag-file kayo ng mga returns na nakasulat yan. So did you monthly VAT? Did you file quarterly income tax return? Did you file annual returns? Or the withholding tax? So if in their database or computer, lalabas, may mga years or months that there's nothing there that was filed, they will compute yung mga returns that you did not file, and I think they charge per return if you did not file. I think it's 1,000 pesos. Kahit na zero, mind you, guys, I have to warn you na pwedeng sabihin nyo, kasi wala namang due zero naman yung sales ko. But the moment that you are under this COR na may nakasulat kung ano-anong taxes, aabangan ni BIR if you're filing monthly VAT returns, kahit zero ang sales or zero ang commission. So if you fail to file in a particular month, makikita yon later. So just be diligent in filing the required returns. So yan po yung example ng COR. Many of you are just in the process of getting or obtaining this with the BIR. Others have already their CORs. Kasi it's possible na meron kayong ibang business, or if you're a professional and you're practicing, let's say a CPA or you're a dentist, possibly meron na kayong COR. Kasi I'm sure nag-issue kayo ng OR doon sa inyong pasyente or sa kliyente ninyo. So you can use the same COR, basta individual po ang naka-register na covered ng COR. Hindi naman kailangan bawat line, type of practice ninyo or separate income. Basta you're receiving it as an individual, pwede nyo gamitin yung the same COR. And yung application nyo for issuance of OR, pwede nyo gamitin ito. So, sample lang po ito ng certificate of registration if you are trying to apply for this. Oh yeah, if you're not a VAT registered entity, wala kasi dito sa sample, you will be liable for percentage tax. Kasi under the tax code, if you don't reach yung dating threshold, ala kang escape. I will just explain why. Under our laws, under our tax code, if you're in business, you will always have to pay at least two kinds of taxes. One is the income tax. That's a given, whether you're in business, whether you're a salaried employee or earning compensation income. All of us, provided we earn income, we will be an income taxpayer. We may be exempt, but we are still an income taxpayer for purposes of this COR. The other type of tax is a business tax. So once you go into business, hindi lang pwedeng income tax lang ang babayaran nyo. Lagi kang may katumbas or may kaakibat na business tax. And what is this business tax? It could either be VAT or VAT, or kung hindi ka sakop ng VAT because you didn't reach the threshold, sa percentage tax ka naman magbabayad. So it's either VAT or percentage tax. I will discuss later yung mga binago sa threshold ng train law. All right, next. So these are the withholding taxes rates, no? Under Revenue Regulations 11-2018. So if you notice, bago na ito at ito na yung, na-consider na rito yung train law because the train law took effect in January of 2018. All right? So take a look at this table closely. I will be very slow. So if you're an individual and your gross income is 250,000 and below, under the train law, na tinaasan yung threshold ng mga hindi magbabayad ng income tax or exempt. Siyempre, kung exempt ka from income tax, wala ka rin dapat withholding tax. Kasi saan mo i-apply yun? So, zero. So, we're talking of gross income here on an annual basis, on a yearly basis. So, this is true if your source of income is only one payer, meaning let's say, wala kayong ibang source ng income kundi si UHS, and yung commission na matatanggap nyo sa buong isang taon ay 250,000 and below, no? Sa tansya nyo. Eh di hindi dapat mag-withhold ng withholding tax, so zero. But if more than one income payer, meaning you have other sources of income, your income payment is subject to 5% withholding tax, even if your total gross income does not exceed 250,000 pesos during the year. Now, for you to avail of this zero, you are required to submit a sworn declaration of gross receipts during the first quarter of the year. In that sworn declaration, there's a form for that from the BIR. You will state that your expected gross income for, let's say, for 2021 is below 250,000 pesos. Now, what is this 3 million? Again, the situation is you're an individual and your total gross income expected for the year is 3 million and below. So the withholding tax rate would be 5%. Again, you're required to submit a sworn declaration of gross receipts to the income payer. Now, if later it increased at hindi pala 3 million at maswerte kayo, marami kayong nabenta, marami kayong naging commission, there is another process for that. Let's just stick to this first. Now, if you are really so masipag and you have exerted all efforts and your income is now higher than 3 million, syempre tumataas din yung withholding tax rate, nagiging 10%. That is the amount that will be withheld by UHS if your gross commission is 3 million and above. Also, you're required to submit sworn declaration. Okay, if you do not submit the sworn declaration, kasi you forgot or you didn't know merong palang such a thing, automatically, the payer, USANA, UHS in this case, will withhold 10%. So, bale, yung highest rate ang gagamitin kasi you did not submit a sworn declaration to the payer, to UHS. So, we can help you with this later pag New Year na. Next. Now, next. Kung corporate naman kayo, kasi in the past, some of you might have formed corporations, no, for this UHS business. I suppose pwede namang associate is a juridical person. Pwede, no? So, kasi may advantages din ito. Like right now, may advantage kung corporation because of the later, no, I'm digressing a little bit. Kung natuloy si create law at corporation kayo, 25% lang ang maximum tax. Diba? Eh kung individual ka at 8 million na pala ang income mo from UHS or 9 million or 10 million, nandun ka sa 35% sa final tax, no, on your income tax. So talo ka. Anyway, those are tax planning opportunities and it depends on its situation. So yung mga ganyan can only be done with proper tax planning. So let's just concentrate muna dito if you are a corporation, because early on you preferred that you will do this business with UHS in the form of a corporation. So the gross income, if it's 720,000 and below, the withholding tax rate is 10%. For the corporation, yung corporation will withhold that. And if it's more than 720,000, the withholding tax rate is 15%. Kasi ang corporation ngayon, without the create bill that is not yet a law, the corporate income tax rate is 30%. No? So, as a corporation, kung 15 ang winidhold sa inyo kasi ang total gross income nyo ay 1 million, edi possible na meron pa kayong babayaran towards the end of the year or on April 15. But if there are deductions that can be made from your gross income of 1 million. Hypothetical example lang po yan. You can avail of optional standard deduction is still allowed for corporation, 40%. But if you compute, konti na lang ang babayaran. Again, subject yan sa pag-submit nyo ng sworn declaration to your payer, which is UHS. And if you don't submit this sworn declaration, they will apply strictly 15%, regardless of the annual gross income, maski below 720,000. Because the rule in withholding taxes, if you are the payer, and in this case it's UHS, you be on the safe side. You choose the higher rate, which is 15%. Now, the payee, whether he is an individual, kung individual kayo, or even if you're corporate, the rate of VAT is the same, 12%. Kasi naman po ang VAT natin, kahit na sino, kay mahirap, kay mayaman, 12% pa rin ang tax because it is a consumption tax, so-called. Based on what you purchase, and whether kahit gaano ka baba amount, walang mga exceptions. Okay? Next. So, let's go to the next section of the tax code, which is section 238. And this is dealing with the printing of receipts. So, para makapag-print po tayo, we cannot just go to any printer. Like the printer must be authorized by the BIR or accredited. So you have to get the so-called authority to print ORs or ATP. So who are required to secure ATP and what are the requirements para makakuha po kayo nitong ATP na to before you go to the printer. Next. So the ATP is an authority secured from the Bureau of Internal Revenue as a form of approval to print receipts or invoices. And it is usually printed on the lower left portion of the OR. So makikita po nyo doon sa ibaba ng OR, yung kaninang sample natin. Ito yung sample nasa right side. Kung ilang booklets ang pinaprint nyo, and then the BIR authority to print, it's a number that comes from the BIR. So monitored nila yan. Walang magkapareho sigurong numero niyan. Ano? That they issued. And if you'll notice, ilang taon siya? 5 years, no? Valid until 2021 in this particular case sample. So, kailangan, now, how many booklets do you want to print? Ito, 20 booklets. Isang booklet, 50 ORs. So, kung 50 yan, 1,000, ano yan, ORs. And, dapat, huwag sumobra yung ipapaprint nyo. Kasi kung weekly yung tanggap nyo ng commission, 52 weeks in a year. And then, kung isang booklet yung 50, dapat 5 booklets. Tama ba? 5 booklets lang. But you may use the same OR for other purposes, right? So it's not just limited to UHS. You can issue from that booklet if you receive something na cash from another transaction. So pwede po niyong gamitin yon. Kasi after 5 years, kung may mga sobra kayong unused booklets, I think isusurrender sa BIR para mag-a-apply na naman ng panibago kasi 5 years nga lang yung validity niya. So this is printed on the lower left portion of its OR. Yung serial number, series number, authority to print number, yung sample. So nakikita naman ninyo. Next. And then the printer also knows that if he is an accredited BIR printer. Usually, si BIR mismo, when you get your certificate of registration or COR na siya nagsasabi kung sino-sinong printers siya pwede niyong lapitan. So, next, please. Who are required to secure ATP? Those who are engaged in business should have an authority to print ORs or sales invoice before a printer can print the same. So yung printer, kahit lapitan nyo, hihingan kayo ng ATP. Hindi siya basta mag-print. Next. So the receipts or invoices must be serially numbered. It should show the name of business, whether you're using your own name or using a trade name. Pwede kasing pangalan nyo mismo or you can use a trade name of your choice. Pag may trade name kayo, para maprotektahan yung trade name nyo, yun, pwedeng i-register sa DTI, yung business style and so on. Kasi baka may mag-copy o gumaya. And that is the protection lang naman. The tax identification number, this is your TIN and your business address. And other information that may be required subject to rules and regulations. But so far, these are the ones that should be there as requirements to secure an ATP. Okay, I believe I have explained to you why you are supposed to issue an OR. It's an obligation. It is for you to comply with the legal provision under our tax code. So, because our tax code has also some penalties in another section, not necessarily under section 237 and 238. Towards the end of the tax code, violation of any provision of the National Internal Revenue Code carries with it some fines and penalties. So that's the reason. We want you to be compliant. And also for UHS to be able to support their claim for the commissions that they have paid you. So let's all be good taxpayers, and we should all comply with our existing laws, rules, and obligations. I can see that there are questions right now, but I think we will, as mentioned, we will go ahead with the second speaker, and I will stay around, and we can have a long question and answer later on. Up to sawa, if you want. Kahit 1 hour. So we could address all your concerns. Up to 1 hour is long enough. So many of them naman would have the same concerns, more or less, unless it's very specific to you, because your situation is entirely different. Then we could address it in general, because I am sure you don't want to let everybody know your present situation. You could also email us privately if hindi applicable in general yung answer, because you have some peculiar situation. So thank you for now. I'll still be around, so I will pass you on to the next speaker, who is my better half. Angel Bernaldo is more familiar with this business registration and all the details and nitty-gritty of doing business and complying with all these accounting related things and compliance with the BIR, because this is really what he is handling in our group of companies. I am more of a tax lawyer who can assist you on your concerns regarding taxation. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. I think you were given a good explanation why a taxpayer should issue an official receipt for whatever income that he received. We are only talking about your USANA business, and I'm not mentioning the other kind of business in this presentation. In this section 3, the business registration application for authority to print receipts and invoices. How to obtain and issue your own receipts. In compliance with the Bureau of Internal Revenue, all income earners, whether natural or juridical, are required to register his or her business to BIR in order to apply for the authority to print of the official receipt. Complete the documentary requirements and complete the application form for registration BIR Form 1901, 1903, and 1905. These forms can be obtained from the website of the Bureau whenever you're going to apply for this authority to print. Complete the documentary requirements and accomplish the application for authority to print. Next. Application for business registration. This is the form of BIR Form 1901 and 1903. We use the 1901 for those individual taxpayer, while the 1903 is being used for corporate or partnership. What are the requirements for this registration for the BIR? At least you have a barangay business clearance, a mayor's permit. Now, if you're using a rented place, a certificate of lease, or your lease agreement with your lessor, any government issued identification card, certificate of registration. If you're a sole proprietor who's using a business or trade name, you're going to use the DTI certificate of registration. Now, if you're a corporation, you're required to present your SEC certificate of incorporation, while in the partnership, same thing, the certificate coming from the SEC. Next. Now, as you'll see, if you're going to visit the BIR website, you can check those form, especially the for individual, the 1901 and the 1903. Then you are going to secure 2 copies and then accomplish it. And all the copies should be prepared duplicate, because the original one will be submitted to BIR, and then you have a receiving copy, which are you going to use in getting your COR from the BIR. The next step, after filling up of all those documents, you have to go to your respective district office. This is what we call the RDO. Now, there's some issue in this case. Some of you may have already your tax account number or the TIN number, especially those are working. And if your TIN number was obtained by your employer, most likely the RDO that is reflected in your TIN number is the same RDO of your employer. Now, there will be a point that you, as an employee, will be transferring to another company, and it could be a different RDO. It's a very common practice that if you transfer from one RDO to RDO, your employer will advise the corresponding RDO of your transfer. But in this case, if you're already an employer and you have already your TIN number, let's say you are working in Makati, but you're residing in Cavite, most likely you are going to get your certification coming from the RDO where you are an employee. Next. Step 4. After filing your registration, you have to pay 500 pesos and 30 pesos for DST. Your certificate of registration will not be provided to you by the RDO at the time of your application. It could take 1 week or 2 weeks. Now, if you are claiming your certification or certificate of registration, you have to present your duplicate copy so that they will issue to you the COR. Now, during the process of that registration, even in the Form 1901, you have also to register some of your books of accounts that you're going to use. In case if your income will only coming from UHS, maybe the BIR will only give you 3 sets of kind of books. That could be what we call the general ledger on the part of the for summarizing your income, your cash receipt book, wherein the basis of your collection from UHS, and maybe another book would be a journal book. This could be the 3 set of books that will be required by the BIR for you to register with them. Now, in case that you are a corporation or a partnership, you will be required to register 6 kinds of books. We call it general ledger, journal book, cash receipt book, disbursement book, purchase book, and sales book. Now, in the case of the registration, there are three ways where you can record your income. You can use a manual books of account, which I mentioned earlier, the general ledger, the purchase book, and sales book and sales book. You can also apply what we call blue slip books of account. A blue slip books of account, this also includes all the journals, but they are printed instead of being handwritten. A common software being used here is the Microsoft Excel. Third one is a computerized books of account, a program of computer system of bookkeeping that is usually common for business with complex operation, maybe like a QuickBook, H3, or other kind of software, accounting software that are approved by the BIR. Registering your books of account by accomplishing and submitting BIR Form 1905 together with your books of account at the LDO where your business is registered. Now, for application for the authority to print receipts and invoices, you have to fill up the Form 1906. You will also secure another 2 copies of this form and to be submitted to the BIR. You can get this form from the same website of the BIR. Step 2, you have to determine what are documents that you want the BIR to approve to be used for your business. You can have a sales book, a sales invoice, you have a official receipt, you have a collection receipt, or a billing statement. In the case of, in your case, as a USANA associates, since you are only rendering services to USANA, the common thing that the BIR will ask you to get approval for printing is what we call the business, visa receipt and the bill of it's a statement of account. These are the two that going to be asked by the BIR for you to register since you are only rendering services to USANA. But in case that you have other kind of business, a good example, you're engaged in trading, then most likely 100%, you're going to have 4 kinds of documents. One will be sales invoice and what we call collection receipt for your business in trading. In the case of services, that will be the billing statement and the official receipt. Next. Then submit all the requirements to your respective RDO. After you made the design of your receipts and your sales invoice. The BIR, after reviewing all your documents, you're going to be given the ATP or the authority to print. Sometimes it will take a week before you can get this ATP. Upon acquiring the ATP, you have to submit this to accredited BIR printer. The release of your official invoice or receipt usually takes up to 2 weeks, depending on the printer that you selected. And then see to it when the printer completed the official receipt, the back cartons on the official receipt in the booklets, it's indicated the authority to print form that was approved by the BIR. Some RDO will require the printer to bring those printed receipts to their office for stamping. But some RDO, since they got already the authority to print approval, they don't require it already. There are some RDOs, they have a different policy, whether it's going to be stamped by the RDO office. Some ATP is already sufficient. Next. I think this issue was discussed already by Attorney Bernardo. Why do you need to issue official receipt? Official receipts are necessary to reduce taxable income. That's on the part of the seller. On the part of the buyer, that's another thing. They can use that for the reduction of their expenses. Official receipts are the basis for calculating VAT and withholding tax. That's only for the service business. In the case of the trading, they use the seller's invoice. Official receipts as a primary evidence of transaction during the audit. If USANA will be audited, because commission is a very big expenses for them, they're going to review the official receipt issued by the associates. What will happen if you fail or refuse to issue receipts? I think this already discussed by Attorney Bernardo. I'll just highlight this only. The different penalties. Failure to issue receipts, that's 10,000 for the first offense and 20,000 for the second offense. Refusal to issue receipts, that will be 25,000 for the first offense and 50,000 for the second offense. Issuance of receipts not containing all information required, 1,000 for the first offense and 2,500 for the second offense. Use of unregistered receipts, it will be 10,000 for the first offense and 20,000 for the second offense. Next. Our next topic is the proper accomplishment of official receipts. There are two general types of official receipts. One is non-VAT official receipt and one is VAT official receipt. As mentioned by Attorney Bernardo, if your threshold is less than 3 million, they call it non-VAT official receipt. But you will be subjected to percentage tax, which is about 3%. While the tranche is of more than 3 million, you're going to be issued a VAT official receipt. This only is some presentation for non-VAT official receipt. If you will notice, in this form, the VAT is not reflected in the official receipt. Not like before, the one that was presented by Attorney Bernardo. It shows the total amount, which is inclusive of VAT. But here, this is only the amount. If you're a non-VAT registered associates, what will be reflected in the official receipt is the amount of the total commission that you receive from USANA. And based on that amount, that amount will be the basis of what withholding tax to be deducted from you, whether it's 5% or 10% or 15%, depending on the total amount that will be reflected in the official receipt. But most likely, in this case, this will be only 10%. It's also very important that to indicate the following details when you prepare the official receipt, even it's a non-VAT official receipt. Date of the commission was received, details of the payer, full name of the payer's trade name, the TIN number, the business address, and the business style. Then indicate also the amount of transaction, amount in words, amount in numbers, and the breakdown of the amount received. Then you have also to describe what kind of income that you receive, and then the signature of the associate or its authorized representative. And then what form of payment that you receive, either cash or by check or whatever other kind of payment. This one is the VAT official receipt. This was earlier discussed by Attorney Bernaldo. I'm just showing to you the difference of the non-VAT and the VAT. If you will notice, in this VAT official receipt, the VAT is very, it's emphasized in the official receipt, but in the non-VAT, there's no more VAT being shown in the official receipt. Proper accomplishment of official receipt. Do's and don'ts in accomplishing official receipts. Number one, make sure to fill out all details required both on the original and duplicate copy. As mentioned earlier, if I were you, if I'm going to have my official receipt, I would rather have it in a triplicate copies. Since we know from the that the original copy goes to USANA, now if you have an accountant who is preparing your books of account, you can issue to him or her the duplicate copy, but the third copy, it should be maintained in the booklet. Don't tear all the piece of receipt from the booklet. Always maintain one copy in the booklet. The moment that the BIR will examine you or will review your transaction or your business, there's a penalty also for not removing the third or the second duplicate copy in the booklet of the official receipt. Make sure that the receipt is issued and signed by the taxpayer or his her authorized representative. Write legibly or in a manner which will be easily understandable to the readers. Don't avoid making any erasure. If any made, it should be countersigned by the authorized representative or by the taxpayer. Do not dispose accomplished booklets. They should be intact and kept for at least 3 years as required by the law. But you have to extend it up to 10 years just in case that there will be a fraud issue in your income. Okay. Answers to frequently asked questions. During our interact with the different associates, these are some questions that we received. Okay, on the tax registration inquiries. Okay. This is one question that we received from one of the associates before this seminar. If the associate is currently employed and receives a salary, how will her provision income be reported to BIR for income tax purposes? Under Section 51A, 2B of the tax code. Employees who are deriving income from compensation at the same time engaged in trade or business are required to file income tax return using BIR form number 1701, not later than April 15 of the following year. This is totally different if you're an ordinary employee. In the case that you are already an employee, your employer will file your income tax. Then you will be provided a form, the withholding tax certificate to be issued to you by your employer. Now, 2316. Now, in case that you are an employee, at the same time, you are an associate in USANA, then that form 2316 plus whatever 2307 that you will get from your from USANA, then you will combine those income in order to compute your income tax. Now, showing in this, we're going to show you where you're going to reflect your income from USANA. For the commission, that will be in the section 8 of the form of the 1701. That will be salaries, revenues, or receipts, fees. Then your creditable withholding tax, that's a 2307, will be reflected in the section 3 and 4 of the part 7 of the form of 1701. This is another question from the associate. If the associate is currently a practicing professional, can he or she use her current official receipt as a professional to issue receipts for commission income receipt? Yes, you can use your official receipt as a professional for the commission income that you receive from USANA. Next. When will the associate be required to register his or her business with the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI? If you're a single proprietor who opted to use trade name, let's say your name is Juan de la Cruz, but you want to call your business as Juan Express, you are required to register your business name with DTI or any province, any regional or provincial offices of DTI. To expedite the registration, you should prepare at least 3 unique business names to ensure that business names are not yet taken. You may check it through EBNR search engine of DTI. Next. Question number 4. Aside from the official receipts, are there any other acceptable principal documents that our associates should issue to USANA for the commission they receive? Since commission income fall under income from sales of service, the required documents to be issued shall be official receipt. Sales invoices are only valid principal documents for income from sale of goods and properties, while collection receipt may be used as evidence of collection of their account. However, they only serve as supplementary receipt and might not be valid documents for claiming input and expense deduction. Actually, the collection receipt is tied up with the sales invoice. In the case of the official receipt, since now, if you're going to follow the process, you're supposed to issue a statement of account to USANA. Then when USANA pays your commission, then you issue your official receipt. But in this process, I think USANA doesn't need this statement of account. Next.
So next po is about inquiries on submission of receipts. When we mean submission of receipts po, it means submission of receipts to us po, to our SBA. Kasi po kami na po yung magko-collect ng official receipts that you will issue for the commissions you received. So first question, when is the deadline of submitting soft copies and hard copies of official receipts to our SBA? Submission of soft copies of OR must be submitted on the date of commission payout or the date the commission was received, whichever comes first. So for example po, bukas, di ba po magkakaroon na ng commission payout? So December 18. Once po na may na-receive na kayo sa account nyo or di mag-i-issue na po kayo ng official receipt. Then afterwards, you need to submit to us via email. We will provide the link later on. Then we will check yung correctness po and accuracy ng soft copy ng official receipt ninyo. Then afterwards, kung may nakita po kaming findings dun sa soft copy of the official receipt, we will inform you or let you know so that you can update or you can correct the official receipt before submitting it to us. Then afterwards po, yung hard copies of official receipts, once po natama na po yung mga details, should be submitted po to us or provided po sa amin. Papadala niyo po sa amin yung official receipts. Okay pa. Question number 2. For associates residing outside Metro Manila, can they send the hard copies every month to save on delivery services instead of a weekly basis? Kasi po di ba yung mga commissions received of associates is on a weekly basis. So hard copies of the official receipts must be forwarded to our SBA on a monthly basis only for those who are outside Metro Manila, but not later than the second commission week after end of that fiscal month. So for example, November 30 po, yung end ng month, then you should submit to us the hard copies of official receipts not later than December 15. Parang ganun po yung thought niya nung answer number 2. Okay. Next question number 3. Would it be okay to send receipts from various associates in one parcel given that the documents are properly labeled? Yes po. It would be okay to submit receipts of various associates in one parcel, especially if you're on one corporation or magkakasama po kayo. Please be reminded to submit soft copies first for our checking before transmittal of the hard copies. Yun lang po yung reminder din. Question number 4. If the booklet is sent to USANA, for example, for those associates who have already provided their booklets to UHS prior to the start of this engagement, do I still need to send official receipts to our SBA? So if you have already sent your booklets to UHS prior to the start of our engagement, which is October 1, you can just continue your current setup and we will just coordinate with UHS regarding your official receipts. So for other topics po, question number 1, what are the charges on the associate's part aside from delivery fees and how much will it be? So for this engagement, aside from delivery charges for the submission of hard copies, there are no other fees that the associate will be charged. Except, syempre po, if you are still not registered to BIR, syempre po, yun na po yung sarili niya na pong expense yun at your own expense na po yung for registration and the like. Last question po before we go to the Q&A portion, before we answer those who have questions in the chat room. Question number 2, what is the date of the official receipt? That should be indicated dun po sa mismong date. Is it the date when the commission was earned or the date the commission was credited to the bank? So usually dapat po yung date na nasa OR should be written on the official receipt must be the date when the commission income was received by the associate. So kung ano po yung date na pumasok yung commission income sa account po ninyo or kung kailan nyo po siya na-receive, that's the date that you're going to put to the official receipt. So for the Q&A portion po, we will check the chat room kung ano po yung mga left unanswered after the presentation. I believe yung mga ibang questions po were already answered during our presentation is. Like for example, yung examples po ng non-VAT receipts, yun po mga nasagot na po sila. Yes, basahin ko na lang po siguro ng malakas. Okay pa.
Okay, I'm back. This is Attorney Bernardo. And as I promised, we will settle all of your concerns this afternoon so that everybody will benefit. No? Kasi before, nung wala pa tayong itong webinar, we answer as you send emails to us or messages. But now, what we will do is, syempre, everybody is also listening, mag-benefit who probably have the same concern. Okay, but first of all, I guess some of the questions when I was talking, kasama pala doon sa portion of Mr. Bernardo, like the non-VAT OR, kasi may nagtatanong earlier, bakit yung VAT OR lang yung pinakita ko doon sa presentation ko? But later it was also shown. But I'd like, before we go through the Q&A one by one, I'd like to refer you to a provision in the tax, in the train law, about your option as an individual to avail of the 8% reduced rate of income tax. As you know, the income tax rates, regardless of your sources of income, is a graduated rate up to a maximum of 35%. If your income is really about maybe 8 million, 11 million, and so on and so forth. So in your case, in our case, well, actually, lahat naman tayo, kung ang income natin ay below 3 million, we can avail of a flat 8% income tax. Hindi ba mas maganda yon kasi 8% lang siya. But then, at saka yung 8% is in lieu of other taxes like the percentage tax. Yung sinabi kanina na kung hindi ka subject sa VAT, doon ka liable sa percentage tax of 3%. That is the general rule. Kasi if your COR, your Certificate of Registration right now shows that you registered for income tax, for VAT, for withholding tax, and or kung hindi ka VAT, nilagay mo doon non-VAT ka, ang kasama nun, percentage tax, as explained earlier, di ba? Kaya lang, nung dumating si train law, binigyan ng option ang mga tax, individuals lang to, sa corporate hindi applicable si 8% tax on income. So pagka 3 million and below, ang income, gross income ng any individual, pwede siyang mag-avail, na self-employed, pwede siyang mag-avail ng 8%. Pero may dapat siyang gawin. Dapat mag-apply siya ng amendment ng kanyang COR. Kasi baka nga nakalagay doon, VAT siya. So, pag ang nakalagay sa train law, kung VAT ka at wala kang ginawa, kahit na below 3 million ka, VAT ka pa rin. Right? So, you've got to go to the BIR and amend. Tulungan yung year na susunod, early on, mag-a-apply kayo ng availment of the 8%. This is new. This is a new provision, but that would help you a lot in terms of tax savings. Yun ang gusto kong malaman. There was a question that when I browsed through the questions that in the chat room, applicable din daw ba yung corporate kahit one-person corporation? There was somebody who asked that. And let me just explain to everybody what a one-person corporation is. This is under the revised corporation code. The answer is yes, to cut it short. Yes, because kahit isa solo ka at nag-incorporate ka at ang tawag sa'yo ay one-person corporation, kahit individual name mo gamitin mo, but you've got to add to your name the letters OPC. for those of you who have tried registering an OPC or one-person corporation, magiging classification mo corporate. So hindi ka na individual. Kahit na ikaw lang mag-isa yun. So please remember that. So yung applicable sa'yo, kung one-person corporation ka is the VAT of 12% kasi doon ka magpo-fall under corporate. As to the advantages of if others or some of you would like to consider putting up a one-person corporation, that's a separate webinar. Mahaba kasi yun, maraming requirements, ano yung advantages, you're going to have limited liability and all that. It's all a different topic. But what I'm saying is, pwede ka magtayo ng one-person corporation. If tax-wise, you will be benefited because if the tax rate for corporations is reduced from 30 to 25%, as stated in the CREATE bill that you read in the newspaper, that the Senate is saying will be passed and will retroact starting July 1 of 2020, which I doubt very much kasi matapos na yung taon, I don't think it can be a law within the year. So most probably it will be passed early next year and will be implemented covering taxable period of 2021. So kayo na mga individuals at matataas ang inyong gross income, pwede nyo pag-isipan kung magtayo na lang kayo ng one-person corporation. You don't need 4 other people to join you. Ikaw lang mag-isa, ikaw ang chairman of the board, ikaw president, ikaw ang treasurer at the same time. You don't need any other directors. At dahil corporation ka, magiging 25% ang income tax rate mo. Okay, so let's go now through the questions. Can you read that?
And the name of the person.
Okay, sige.
Hindi ko kasi
Pero
nababasa.
dito ako nag-start sa single person.
Kasi
Kasi yung iba na sa group. So, a question po from Miss Jamie Aurelia. If a sole proprietorship, does that mean that we have to get 2 kinds of receipts, official receipts to be issued to UHS, and then another set of sales invoice to be issued to our clients?
Yes, this presupposes that you are selling it, di ba? That's how you earn because you sell the products of UHS to other people, to your customers. And these customers may ask sales invoice from you. And under the provision that I mentioned, the same section, 237 of the tax code, as a seller this time of goods, what you have to issue is a sales invoice to your customers who are buying goods from you. Then, on the other hand, since you are receiving commission from UHS, you have to issue official receipt. So magkaiba yun. So yes, the answer is yes.
If you purchase also the goods from UHS, then you can have
Yes. Of course.
Baka hindi na dapat i-record yung sales nila sa income tax din nila.
All right, as an additional point to the one asking the question, presumably you bought the same goods from UHS. I'm sure UHS will be issuing a sales invoice kasi they are required to do so. So yung sales nila invoice that they issued to you, that is your cost of the goods that you in turn sold naman to your customer. So yung cost na yan, pwede mong i-deduct dun sa selling price mo. And if both of these are subject to VAT, your sale to your own client or customer, and also the sale by UHS of the goods to you, offset lang yung input VAT at saka output VAT mo. So medyo malaki-laki na tong mga transactions na to, and you need really books of accounts for this. Okay?
Next question po, which is left unanswered pa, is from Miss Lorelei Trinidad. As an employee, meron na po kaming PIN number. Can we use the same for our COR application?
Oh,
Yes,
yes. Go ahead.
yes, you can still you can use your PIN number as an employee.
You know why? Because every person has only one PIN number. Unless you have a corporation that you are the owner, pero separate legal personality ang korporasyon mo, may sarili siyang PIN number. But a person who has been issued his PIN number from the time you started working, yung pa rin yung PIN number mo hanggang ngayon. And even if you go into business as an individual, if you go into a business as a corporation, then you must have set up a legal entity called the corporation. That has to have a separate PIN number. Yes.
Next question is from Maria Noli Chua. I am using a trade name in Facebook. Do I have to register that name with DTI as single proprietorship and let it appear on my receipts with USANA? Or is it more practical to use
My name.
my name instead of the trade name in my receipt so I can use it for other purposes or transactions other than USANA?
Okay, it depends on why you're using a trade name in your FB. Baka naman you're really promoting na, no? So may value yung trade name mo. At kilala ka na sa ganong pangalan. So if you gonna ask me, pwede mo naman siyang i-register sa DTI yung trade name mo as an individual. Pero ang doing business under the name and style of USANA, of your whatever FB name that you're using. Kasi baka marami ka ng followers and it is related to your business, di ba? Pwede naman, allowed naman talaga yon. You can use trade name even though you're an individual. But as I said, you've got to register that with DTI para hindi magaya ng iba. Once it's registered, nobody can use the same trade name. Yes.
Next question from Mr. Mark Romero. What if the same number is filed in a different RDO? How do I transfer it to my home address?
Si Mr. Bernaldo sasagot diyan sa mga
Meron kang
lipat.
form na gagamitin. Ang tawag sa form na yun, form 1905. Yung 1905, it will be used for cancellation and transfer of your RDO. Yung gusto mong lilipat doon sa home address, then you have to file it from your current RDO, and then after they approve it, then it will be forwarded to the new RDO na yung home address mo.
May mga complications din yan. Kasi pag lilipat ka, kailangan mo siyempre yung approval ng dati mong RDO. Titingnan mo sa computer niyang BIR kung meron kang mga, anong tawag doon? Open cases. So, be sure lang na complete ka ng mga filing mo. Kung meron man open cases, may nakaligtaan kang i-file, sisingilin ka lang ng penalty for non-filing. Which, as I said, if there's no tax due to sa return that you're supposed to file based on your COR, ang mangyayari ay fine kanila ng 1,000 per return.
Okay na po.
Okay.
So, as per checking, the next question that is unanswered is from, again, Miss Maria Noli. Is there a minimum number of booklets that is required for printing?
Actually, wala akong alam na minimum.
Actually, this is what ang ginagawa ng mga printer. The minimum nila is 10 booklets. Kasi the price of the 5 booklets and 10 booklets are the same.
1,500 daw po yung yes.
It's a booklet?
10 booklets.
10 booklets. So, if I were you, dadagdagan ko na kung pareho ng presyo, di ba? So, kasi habang dumadami yung number of booklets, parang mas nakakatipid ka on a per booklet cost, right?
Yes po.
Kaya lang ang visa ng mga booklets 5 years as mentioned, di ba? Mag-renew ka na naman.
Yes. The next question is from Miss Jessica Tuazon. I heard you can purchase official receipts from BIR directly. Is it true?
No. Actually, ang nangyayari lang dyan, the BIR facilitated yung pagkuha nyo ng official receipt doon sa mga kakilala nilang printer.
So, sasabihin ng BIR, pag nagpunta rin, nagmamadali ka, you want to get already an OR, may kilala sila, nakakausapin nila to just speed up the process maybe. Pero wala pa kaming na-experience na pag pumunta ka ron, bibigyan ka ng OR. Kailangan pa rin yung ATP, tapos may printer na pagbibigyan.
Next question po, again from Miss Maria. What happens if we applied for a non-VAT and then in years time, I made more than 3 million in commissions? Can I still issue the non-VAT receipts more than 3 and commissions? But
The receipts
should be VAT receipts.
No, bawal yun. Kasi kaya nga meron ng declaration na pag dumating yung panahon na alam mo na mag-exceed ka na ng 3 million, dapat i-amend mo na yung certificate of registration mo kasi nakasulat doon, I assume, dati kasi less than 3 ka, non-VAT. Pagka magiging vatable ka na, you've got to comply with the law. Kasi nakalagay sa law, pagka 3 million and above, dapat VAT ka na. So, hindi ka pwede palang mag-issue ng OR na non-VAT doon sa kung lampas ka na ng 3 million. Dapat VAT registered.
Hindi, medyo magiging complicated yan. Ito example, you're receiving a commission from USANA. From the start, you registered as non-VAT. Every now and then, pag ibigay si USANA sa'yo ng commission, walang VAT yun. Pero during the year, mapapansin din ng USANA that you are exceeding 3 million. They will call your attention to be VAT registered.
Yes.
Okay.
So for a question from Miss Tati Sales, I think this is answerable by UHS, but I will still mention. Ask lang po namin, pwede po kami mag-process ng BIR next month na. Nag-start na po kasi yung commission namin October this year. So for this question, siguro si USANA na po yung mag-i-inform sa inyo if this is allowed. But for us, ang re-require po namin is mag-start na po sana kami makakuha ng receipts from the associates starting October onwards.
Teka, wait. Ibig dyan sabihin, wala pa yung kanyang, wala pa siyang OR. Kasi ngayon pa rin siya nagpa-process. I suppose matatapos yan kasi nga medyo Christmas time ngayon. Baka hindi matapos this year. Assuming natapos this year, pwede ka pa mag-issue for 2020. Di ba? Kasi, alimbawa, December 22 mo nakuha yung permission. Pero tumanggap ka mula October, right? Ng commission. Dapat, mag-issue ka pa rin for the whole October, November ng isang resibo. Kung ako ang tatanungin ha. Kasi that will validate yung mga commission na natanggap mo from October to December. Hindi naman kailangan bawat as much as possible, as you receive, you issue an OR. Pero kung dahil na-delay yung pagpapaprint ng OR, pwede namang i-recognize mo yung lahat ng natanggap mong bayad sa isang OR lang. Huwag lang siguro lumampas ng the same year. Kasi individuals are taxed based on actual receipt niya ng income niya. No? Cash basis kasi ang individuals like you. Kung kailan mo na-receive yung iyong kinita, yun yung year na dapat kang mag-file ng income tax return. So, dapat ngayong 2020 dahil meron ka ng income from UHS, dapat mag-issue ka ng OR for 2020. Even though bandang December na.
Next question po. Next question is again from Ms. Maria. I have several corporations. Can I register as a proprietor na lang for USANA purposes?
Yes, nothing precludes you or prevents you from having another business na dedicated lang kay UHS and you are doing it as a single proprietor. Your other businesses under several corporations are I suppose, different lines of business. Kung ayaw mo siyang ihalo, pwede kang mag-register as an individual. Next.
Next po is from Ms. Rich Aya Marico Reyes. What soft copies of official receipts are you referring to? Are they the screenshots of the hard copies? Ang question that answer, yes po. Balik kapag po na-fill out na nyo yung official receipt mismo, you have to send us a soft copy for our checking if it is compliant with the section 237 and 238 of the MARC and other requirements po.
So i-scan nila.
Instead of padala nila kasi yung OR
Right away.
then mali yung nasulat. So we check it first before they send the OR.
Para minsan na lang din po forward sa Next,
Pwede po one-time registration.
for disciple check chef, pwede po bang one-time registration ang kukunin namin instead of registering our business?
One-time registration.
Yung BIR form na pag wala ka pang PIN. Ano ba yun?
Yung one-time registration that I know of is,
Magbabayad ka na ng income.
let's say you have an isolated transaction.
Yeah.
Let's say merong namatay at magbabayad ng estate tax, no? Wala siyang PIN kasi yung PIN nung namatay is different from the estate. The estate has to do a one-time registration. So ano po kaya ang ibig sabihin niya ba ng one-time registration? Kasi pagka nag-business ka or magiging associate ka, magre-register ka talaga, di ba? Required ka mag-register sa BIR ng get a COR.
Next po is from Ms. Starling. How about if the associate is not here in the Philippines, pero registered sila sa USANA Philippines?
Registered as an associate.
Pero they are not in the Philippines.
Saan siya nagbebenta? Nasa abroad? Ang mga customers niya nasa abroad? Kasi ganito yan. Kung registered ka as a non-resident citizen ka siguro, I don't know your tax status. You are outside permanently or parang naka-assign lang sa abroad but had intention of coming back to the Philippines. You're still a Filipino citizen? Depends on your tax status. Kasi kung doon ka nagbebenta, that means you're performing services abroad. If you're a Filipino citizen still, yung income mo from all over, whether in the Philippines or abroad, subject pa rin sa income tax dito sa Philippines. Therefore, applicable pa rin sa iyo yung mga rules. Hindi. OFW is different. Depende kung OFW siya. But it has to be in connection with his being OFW. Hindi lahat ng income from abroad is non-taxable here. So anyway, the one who asked that, maybe you could send us an email further on your tax status kasi the answer may be different. Okay. Ano?
Kung 5 years ka ng distributor.
Kung 5 years ka ng distributor ng USANA at ngayon ka lang nag-file for receipt ng BIR, babayaran po ba namin lahat yun?
Hindi na siguro. Kasi, alin ang babayaran?
Parang hindi niya kasi na-report sa BIR. Kasi,
Distributor siya, siguro nagbebenta siya. At the same time,
May
bibigyan niya
commission.
commission.
Makikita naman na registered ka pa lang this year.
Ano yung pala siya mag-register? wala na tayong magagawa doon sa mga nakaraang taon kasi supposedly nag-register ka dapat noon eh. Di ba? Baka habulin ng BIR. Huwag na natin ano to, i-open yan. Current year na lang. Next.
From Miss Mariam Michelle Joy, what BIR form is applicable for someone who just graduated college and without employment experience yet? BIR team purpose is for USANA membership application only.
Apply sa ano?
1901 pa rin.
Till 1901 po rin po yung applicable for individuals.
So in other words, ngayon pa lang siya mag-i-start mag-earn. Di ba? Fresh graduate siya. Mag-apply siya ng TIN. Kasi magiging taxpayer siya.
So, Form 1901 for Maria Michelle. And of course, eventually, if you're going to look for employment, kailangan mo
the same pa rin
yung
yung
form din naman. And the same thing.
Yan. From
ano yung near your...
From Ms. Marmar Paz po yung question niyo po regarding handing over receipts. Yes po, we can deliver the receipts, the booklets to us. I will just provide a link po later on kung saan niyo po siya pwede ipadala. Yung address.
Yes, and open naman ang office namin.
Dated only this month. Sahin mo na.
From Miss Empowered _Kate, I have two questions po. Number one, COR is dated only this month, so for this December 2020. And prior date means that we are not yet registered. Then number two, OR printing date is indicated in the OR December 3rd, 2020, which conflicts as well. Kasi sa mga prior ORs po, mag-i-issue pa daw po kasi kung yung date is December 2020.
Then you will issue the OR as one OR lang ng December, no? For the entire
year.
For the entire year. Pwede naman ganun.
Yep, kailangan mo.
Ang date ng OR niya, dapat after nung date nung COR or yung date nung kailan na-print yung OR doon sa authority to print. So, hindi siya nagsisinungaling kasi tama naman yung date ng OR niya. Sinasabi naman niya, commissions earned from January to December.
Question, can I submit my OR monthly? Yung katulad mo nang sinabi ko po kanina, it should be on a monthly basis if you are residing outside Metro Manila. But may mga kita din po kanina questions na what if nasa inside Metro Manila din yung residence nila. We have to still further verify this with UHS if they are going to allow.
Kasi their instructions to us is weekly.
Next question is still from Ms. Marmar. To Mr. Bernaldo, what is the billing statement that you have mentioned as one of the requirements of BIR for non-VAT aside from official receipts? Thank you.
Yeah, it's because why are they receiving commission? Diba? So dapat binigyan mo.
Actually, if you are receiving a commission from USANA, the real process, if you provide ka ng service sa USANA, you are supposed to issue a billing statement to USANA. Then USANA will pay you, and then you will issue official receipt.
But I think in their case, yung pre-computed na ni UHS, may system si UHS that automatically computes the commission due. So itong si associate would not even know how much to bill. So pwede namang hindi na mag-issue ng billing statement. Basta OR.
Kung hindi na required ng USANA.
Hindi na nila required.
Next question is from Ms. Clarice Solvernal. Hello po, can you please clarify yung sa gross sworn statement? non-VAT registered per individual whose income is less than 250,000, am I required to submit the sworn statement to USANA?
Yes, para na yung sworn statement kasi is saying na isa lang ang iyong employer. From UHS, pwedeng less than 250,000 ka. Pero if you have another source of income that makes it higher than 250, yun yung nakasulat doon. So kung isa lang ang source mo, si UHS, dapat zero na talaga yung withholding tax mo, di ba? Kasi exempt, under the law, exempt lahat ng 250,000 and below ang income, whether salary or commission or any other source of income. So, pero sa tingin ko, dapat maggawa pa rin siya ng sworn statement para alam ni UHS na talagang magiging 250 and below lang siya from any source.
Next question po is from Empowered Faith po ulit. If I submit my booklets to the office, can I get a copy of OR listing file from UHS at least every month, like before mag-5th of every month for bookkeeping purposes? Siguro po itong question na to is, pwede naman po sa amin i-directly coordinate po ito. You can just contact or email us directly for...
Right.
Kaya yung importante sana, kung magpapagawa kayo ng OR, gawin yung triplicate. Para yung original mapupunta sa USANA, yung duplicate mabibigay nyo doon sa accountant nyo, yung isang booklet na iwanan.
Yung question niya kasi kung dito na yung OR, booklets.
So, isasend natin sa kanila yung second copy.
Oo. Sabi niya, para ma-record ng accountant niya. Hindi, pwede ng summary na lang kaysa sa isa-isang copy. Hindi, isang list for the month. Di ba? 4 lang.
Sige po.
Paano mo sasoli yung separate? We'll talk about it na lang internally. Okay.
Next question po is from Miss.
Yeah.
Yung kay Miss Geraldine. Kay Miss Geraldine Alpes, can I avail of the 8% from USANA income even if I am unemployed?
Employed. I am
Yes,
employed.
kasi separate yun.
As long as below 3 million. Pero mag-a-apply ka sa BIR.
Yeah. I am happy that there are a lot of you who have questions because, as I said, this is better forum than individually asking us the same question, di ba? Mabuti yun na pare-pareho lang ang sagot namin sa the same, sa lahat. Okay.
Next question is from Miss Clarence. How much should be the tax withheld deducted to a corporate account by UHS, and how much tax should we file by our bookkeepers as corporate account to BIR under the new trade law?
We already discussed this sa PowerPoint.
Yes po.
Kasi the tax withheld is depending if you are a corporate account, then that's either 10% or 15%, depending on your gross income. Then how much tax should be filed or paid by our bookkeepers? Well, that depends on
your deductions, yung mga allowable deductions.
Yes.
You know, kasi yung 720,000, yun yung 10%. Yung corporate. And nandun yun sa PowerPoint. Pero yung second question niya na magkano yung babayaran ni bookkeeper pag as corporate account to BIR, may computation po yan. Hindi, 30%. Pero minus mo yung nag-avail ka ba ng optional standard deduction of 40%? Hindi ba yung example ko kanina? Let's say 1 million ang total gross mo. So, pwede kang mag-avail ng 40%, less 40. O di, okay ka na, may 400,000 ka, 600,000 na lang. Tapos 30% ang rate ng withholding. Pero yung mga yan, dapat i-compute na yan towards the end of the year. Hindi namin masasagot yung exact amount na
Yeah, I
babayaran
think
mo.
ito yung question niya.
30 pa rin. On net. On net income. Remember, it's net income. It's not on the amount you receive from UHS.
And I'm here.
From Miss Maris Gudes po, if I have a construction company to register on January as well, can I have USANA under the same COR as secondary income?
Malayo siya, ano, no? Wait, yung pag construction, ano mo, business is individual or corporation? Corporation? At tapos si USANA, gusto mo corporation din. Medyo malayo-layo siya. Kasi ang primary purpose niya sa corporation, sa articles of incorporation would be to engage in the business of construction, etc., etc. Secondary purpose niya is to earn commission as a commission agent. Actually po pwede. Pwede naman. Walang nagbabawal dyan.
How about sole proprietor?
Ay, kung gusto niya yung construction company niya is corporation, kasi dapat talaga, mas preferred ko yung corporation. Pwede mong i-register separately yung UHS as an individual. Pero pwede mo rin pagsamahin.
From one of the associates, one question, with the ATP, can we have OR booklets and sales invoices at the same time?
Yes, you can. Pag nag-file ka na sa application mo, you can indicate what are the documents that you needed.
So pwedeng marami, pwedeng OR, pwedeng sales invoice, pwedeng billing invoice, delivery receipt, pwede mong sama sa ATP.
For the next question is from Ms. J. Lu Jerusalem. If we are four associates of USANA now in our family, my sister, me, and my 3 kids, can we just apply this as a corporation and use one business name and official receipt?
Yes. Yes.
Pero just in case po na, for example, hindi sila gagawin ng corporation, it should be individual.
Individual pa rin. No? Unless, ang gawin niya, isa lang yung naka-register kay UHS, di ba? Kahit na ang nag-earn or nagbebenta ng goods ay lahat sila. Parang tulong-tulong sila pero isang person lang.
Okay. From Ms. Clarison Bernal, regarding po sa nag-withhold sa amin na 10% every time we receive commission, pwede po ba kami mag-request ng 2307 para ma-credit namin siya sa babayaran namin na tax when we file our BIR tax?
Yes, that is your right.
For the 2307, it should be provided by UHS po. So, sila po yung
actually, hindi kami yung mag-i-issue nun. CUHS.
Again po from Ms. Maris Gudes, if I am a mixed income earner, the 3 million threshold is cumulative of all sources of income?
Yes.
Yes po.
Except if the other income is coming from as an employee.
Pag compensation income, separated. Pero kung may all other sources ka, from commission from UHS, or you are also a real estate broker, or may iba ka pang buy and sell of goods, kasama lahat yun sa 3 million. Okay. Nakakatuwa naman sila. Ang dami nilang questions, and I hope you are getting the answers and you are guided on what to do.
Okay, how about this one? If, for example, nag-change to non-VAT to VAT, do they have to return the unused OR?
Usually, binabalik sa BIR yan. Ang gagawin ng BIR, pag dinala mo sa kanya, sasabihin sa'yo, sirahan mo sa harapan nila. Depende sa RDO. Yung ibang RDO, kinukuha nila. Pero ibang RDO, they will just ask you to tear destroy sa harapan nila.
Kasi ano sa BIR, makasiguro siya na hindi mo gagamitin yung mga unused OR mo na palabasin mong non-VAT, di ba?
Sabi po ng BIR, mag-issue lang kami ng OR kung kailan kami na-register sa BIR.
Oo, tama naman.
Yun yung topic na magiging lapsak na yung
Total amount.
Yeah.
Pero ina-acknowledge na is the total amount that they receive. Yung date ng OR is kung kailan lang siya nagka-OR.
Yeah.
It cannot be before the date of the printing. Kasi obvious yun na hindi totoo. Marami pa ba questions?
Nasa part 8 messages. Siguro, after 15 minutes, we will close the questions. And then, you can send your questions with our live agent website. Maybe Ella can type, no? So let's cut this into 15 minutes.
Sige.
What do I do exceed na yung commission ko?
We only met our budget all others for commission.
Yes. Kasi next year na yun.
Okay, yun sa January.
Ayan.
For Sir June, from Sir June Bulos, if we only get the OR by January 2021, we can no longer issue receipts for commissions earned this year.
No more. Kasi nga, dapat nakatugma yung year, yung the same year, dapat nakapaloob siya sa the same year. But anyway, parang I heard kanina in the intro that UHS will strictly implement this talaga January 2021. So starting January 2021, please be religiously issuing ORs. Okay, ano pa?
From Mr. Carl Henjo, kung current RDO is Pasay and may register Mandaluyong, should I register my business sa RDO Pasay or sa RDO Mandaluyong?
Hindi, kaso nandun na siya eh. Taxpayer na siya doon sa Pasay eh. Di ba?
So sa Pasay.
Sa Pasay na po.
Yeah, unless you want to transfer your PIN number from Pasay to Mandaluyong. Pwede gawin yun.
When he says, I am employed in Pasay, does it mean na ang ginamit niya address? Kasi pwede naman employed ka rito sa Makati, but I live in Parañaque, for example. Baka nga. So, anong advice? Sa Pasay na rin lang.
Pasay na rin.
One-time registration.
On net. No? Yan yung sa mga capital gains tax eh. Kung meron ka lang sale ng property, on net. Yan.
Ito ang sagot na to.
Ako lang sagot na. Parang nagsinadang po.
OFW po. The one that is residing outside is an OFW.
So, nakaka-receive siya ng commission and it's transmitted doon sa place niya outside the country. And the services are performed abroad. Sino yung binibigyan?
Or unless they he has bank account here in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah, it could have been transmitted dito. Sa kanya, ang advice ko dyan, usually OFWs are non-resident citizens of the Philippines. You are considered non-resident citizens. And may definition kasi yan under the tax code. So if you're earning salaries as an OFW, hindi yun taxable dito sa Philippines. But I am not sure at this time, no, but I will get back to you. Kung ang ginagawa mo sa abroad, aside from being employed, nagsa-sideline siya, nagbebenta rin siya ng products. Therefore, there is an argument that your income is being earned abroad, in which case it should not be taxable here in the Philippines. So yun yung titingnan natin. Possible din kasi na siya yung naka-register, but the ones doing the selling and having the cost of the clients here ay yung mga kasama niya, mga kamag-anak niya dito sa Philippines. Baka naman ganun yung situation. Yeah. So, if we can prove that the services through which you earn the commission are performed by you abroad, kasi the ones your customers or your clients are there also abroad, chances are pwede nating na-exempt ka na from withholding and income tax. Okay. Pero we will please email us so we could see your real situation.
How much? From Mr. Mel Kalala po, how much po if kayo po ang magpa-process ng, I think this is for the business registration po.
Wait. Yung we do this as a regular service to clients. Pero part of, for example, may tinayo kaming company for a client, nag-incorporate. Siyempre, when you incorporate, may susunod na steps like registration nga with the BIR, getting a COR, asking for ATP, and so on. In your case, since na kayo, ang services ba na gusto ay to get a COR and to get an authority to print so that the end result is you are already registered with the BIR and you have the OR. So for that service, I think we have a standard rate, Angel. How much?
We already provided the standard rate. We'll get back to you.
Ipo-post na lang namin para pare-pareho. Kasi it also depends on where, right? Baka outside Metro Manila, we'll have to send people to that BIR district.
Pero regarding sa OFW, I think it's the same, no? Nasagot na rin yan in 2020. Construction company is individual lang po.
Yun yung kanina po.
Okay lang na isa lang ang tint, isa lang registration. Kasi ikaw rin yun.
Yung follow-up question po ni Mr. Discipleship. Sa Cebu po kami nag-reside, kailangan po ba namin isend yung OR sa NCR or pwede dito sa Cebu office ng USANA? Either directly po sa amin or mag-coordinate po kayo sa USANA Cebu office, then kami na po yung mag-coordinate sa USANA for the transfer of their official assets here in Manila.
Yes.
So, ang question nila is, what happens to the withholding tax if nakaka-receive na ng commission pero hindi pa naman registered?
That is from Sir Renzo po.
Pero withhold siya? Kasi may team siya. You've got to report the income or your income tax return. Bibigyan ka naman ng Form 2307. Yes. it's your duty to report that. Otherwise, pag binats ni BIR yan, dahil sa USANA, UHS naka-report yung mga binayaran nila sa alpha list, ba tawag doon? Lalabas yung pangalan mo, tapos pag tinignan, wala kang ITR, ground yan for tax assessment.
From Janine and Dale Albania. Ask ko lang po kung business registration for PRC holders, do we need to secure PTR?
PTR? Professional, as a professional. Kung halimbawa, CPA, talagang required ka magbayad ng PTR. Pero hindi para dito sa UHS. Diba? Enough na yung binayad mo for PTR as a professional. Baka na may sinasabi niya yung 500 pesos. Diba magbabayad din sa COR yun. Ano pa?
Yung kay Clarissa po, regarding lang sa submission, saan po ba siya isasubmit? Yung soft copy po is through our live agent account, which I already sent via chat. Yung hard copy po ng OR, supposedly po dapat starting January or actually starting October, dapat po sa amin na siya directly. But just in case may napadala na po kayo sa USANA, makikikoordinate na namin po kami sa kanila. Pero for later on, sa RSPA na po sa SANA direction. Next is from Ms. Dayan. If an associate is currently employed where the HR is the one managing the filing of income tax, how does registering the USANA business affect the filing? Also, can the address of USANA office be used in the registration instead of the residential address?
Yung second question is to be answered by UHS if they will allow that. No? Yung first question, because siniro out na nga, wala ka nang na-minus na lahat ng withholding on your compensation kasi yun ang duty ni employer, right? Ang HR ng employer. So walang form na binibigay ba ang employer?
In that case, even the HR file your income from the company, still you're going to file 1701 wherein you're going to use the 2316 na binigay ng HR plus the 2307 na magagaling sa USANA. Doon sa form na yun, makikita mo doon na compensation, iba, other income. Now, doon sa other income mo, pwede kang gumamit ng optional deduction. Kunwari, 40% optional deduction. Mababawas mo yun para bumaba yung income mo.
In other words, you still have to file a separate income tax return come April 15, regardless of the fact that your employer, has already zero out yung withholding tax mo on your compensation. Mangyayari nun, ilalagay mo doon sa column on compensation yung total na natanggap mo from your employer. Tapos doon sa column on other income or business income, lalagay mo yung natanggap mo sa UHS, tapos yung withholding ni employer at saka yung withholding ni UHS, pagsasamahin mo, yun ang madideduct mo doon sa tax, sa combined ng computation nun, tax due, no? So, most...
But you have to... the first step really is to coordinate with your HR. Inform, hingin mo kasi 2316
Providing it after filing.
Yeah, correct.
Pero para magawa niya yung income tax return niya, kailangan mo yun, malaman mo dun sa employer mo, magkano yung total mo for the year at magkano yung total withholding, which they are required to give you. Tapos gagawa ka na ngayon ng income tax return, isasama mo pa rin siya. Kasi ipagsasamahin mo yung income mo sa compensation at yung income mo sa UHS, tapos yun yung sinasabi niyang optional standard deduction, kailangan may ma-deduct ka naman dun sa yung commission. Otherwise, full amount yung matataksan. So dapat kung wala kang mga resibo para i-minus dun sa commission income mo, at mahirap kasi what can you justify as your expenses? Mag-avail ka. Ang advice namin is 40% of your commission income you can claim as allowable deduction. So 60% na lang yung subject to tax na i-add doon sa compensation income. Tapos kukumputin yung total tax. And then ima-minus yung dalawang withholding. Okay?
Usually yung 2316 will be provided to you by your employer. Kasi by January 30, pinapile na yun. Then you can get already your copy before April 15.
Yes, I think this will be the last question. There are several messages, but you can just place everything sa live agent, no? Okay.
So the last question that we will be entertaining for today is from Miss Melanie Ilagan. We are under government agency. Kaka-transfer lang po namin ng RDO kung nasan yung location ng office namin. Doon po sa transfer, I don't think hindi po namin basta-basta pwedeng i-transfer yung RDO from there sa QC to Taguig kung saan po ako nakatira. Paano?
Gagamitin mo na lang yung sa RDO na kung saan yung employee nyo.
Yung kanyang employer.
Yes po. Pwede po po gamitin yung RDO kung saan na lang po kayo employed.
Kasi individual siya.
Luma.
Yung mga RDO po. Ako, kasi transfer na.
Hindi, transfer sila. Walang bago.
Yung bago.
Walang bago na.
Kung ano na yung bago, so yung QC na siya. From QC to Taguig na po yung.
Saan sila tinransfer? Kasi sumusunod sila sa employer.
Yun na yung magiging ano niyo po. Address niyo po.
Yung QC. QC kasi Taguig siya nakadirect.
So yun po, I also chatted po that you may send your follow-up questions po at support@rsbernaldo.lades.com or chat us using our website po at uhs-rsbernaldo.lades.com.
Ang haba Naka-post. Anyway, meron pa kami mga susunod na webinar kasi for those who were not able to join, actually, pwede naman kayo mag-join ulit, di ba? Wala namang. Kailan ba yung mga next?
Our next po is on Tuesday, December 22.
Ayun. So those of you who would like further clarification on the issues or concerns that you have raised, you can still join the others. And then you tell your other associates and friends na merong ganitong webinar that they can throw all their questions for clarification. Okay? So for this afternoon, I think we have enough, mga 450, more than 50. We had how many attendees? 100 plus, 160. And then we have entertained